The cast iron skillet connected with his skull at exactly 11:47 p.m. It made a sound I'll never forget, a deep, resonant clang like a cathedral bell buried inside a watermelon. I didn't know he was a king. I didn't know he was a wolf. All I knew was that someone had unlocked the penthouse door at midnight, and I had a 12-inch pan and zero hesitation. He dropped like a felled oak onto the Italian marble, limbs sprawled, completely still. "Stay down," my voice cracked. "I have a boning knife in my apron, and I can debone a chicken in 30 seconds flat." Silence. Just the hum of the refrigerator and my own ragged breathing. Then the hallway lights flickered on, and my stomach plummeted 40 floors. Burglars wear ski masks. This man wore a suit that cost more than my parents' house. His shoes were polished to mirrors. He smelled like aged whiskey and thunderstorms, and something underneath, something wild that made every hair on my body stand at attention. "Oh God," I whispered. "I just killed a rich person." A groan rolled up from the floor. Not pain, irritation. He rolled onto his back, touched his bleeding temple, and opened his eyes. They were gold. Molten, glowing, impossible gold. I knew those eyes. The whole world knew those eyes. Damien Ashford, the Alpha King, ruler of the entire Shifters continent. And I just treated his skull like a Sunday omelet. He looked at the blood on his fingers. Then he looked at me, fuzzy socks, flour-stained pajamas, trembling frying pan. He didn't roar. He didn't shift. He grinned. "Did you?" His voice scraped like gravel. "Just hit me with cookware?" "You broke in," I shouted. "I live here. The owner's in Europe. I'm the house visitor. You unlocked the door without knocking. That's hostile. That's a workplace violation." He stood up. He just kept unfolding taller, broader, until he blocked out the hallway light entirely. The air turned hot, electric. Every instinct screamed run. I dug my heels in. He stepped forward. I swung the pan. "Don't. I'll dent the other side to match." He stopped. Something shifted behind his eyes. He wasn't looking at the weapon. He was looking at me like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve, or a meal he wanted to savor. "You know exactly who I am?" he asked softly. "A billionaire with a concussion and terrible boundaries. Back up or I'm calling the tabloids. Alpha King taken down by a pastry chef with a skillet. Imagine your stock prices." He froze. The gold in his eyes flared. I braced for death. Instead, he laughed. Dark, rich, wrapping around my spine like smoke. "A pastry chef," he murmured, studying me with focused hunger. "You're threatening to blackmail me. I'm negotiating my safety." "Put the pan down, little chef." He leaned close, blood still trailing down his temple, looking dangerous and unhinged. "You don't need it." "I think I do." "No, because if I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be dead." His hand closed over the barrel of the skillet, covering my fingers. His skin was scorching. "I want to know what flavor of crazy you have to be to swing iron at a king." The elevator dinged behind him. 6 men in tactical gear poured out, weapons drawn. "Alpha. She's armed. She assaulted you." Damien didn't look at them, didn't release the pan, just stared at me with a slow, possessive smirk. "Leave us," he commanded. "But sir," I said, "leave." The words hit the room like a shockwave. The guards froze. He leaned in, lips brushing my ear. "Nobody leaves until I get an apology." Or what? I breathed. He pulled back, gold eyes dancing. "You make me dinner." "I am not your personal chef," I said, tightening my grip. "I am an intruder defense system you failed to bypass." He swayed, blood still trickling. His pupils were blown wide. "Your pupils are dilated," I blurted, my training overriding my terror. "You're slurring. Cast iron is harder than bone. You need ice. You need stitches. And you need to stop looking at me like I'm the dessert course." The lead guard reached for his taser. "Ma'am, drop the..." "Don't." Damien's growl was animal, final. The guard turned to stone. "If you touch her, you're fired. If you scare her, you're fired. If you breathe too loud near her, you're fired." I stared at him. He was protecting me. The woman who'd cracked his skull. "Why?" I whispered. The predatory haze lifted. Something genuine flickered underneath. "Because you're the first thing to happen in this penthouse in 5 years that wasn't on a schedule." He reached for me and his knees buckled. A slow, graceful crumple as the concussion finally caught up. Guards swarmed him, earpieces buzzing with Alpha down. I didn't think. I dropped the skillet, grabbed my bag, and bolted. "Wait." His voice, strained and groggy, chased me through the closing elevator doors. Through the narrowing gap, I saw him shoving guards aside, golden eyes locking onto mine. He mouthed one word: "Run." The doors sealed. 40 floors dissolved beneath me. I sprinted through the lobby, past the sleeping doorman, and burst into the rain. 2 days, 48 hours of caffeine-fueled paranoia. I checked every news feed, waiting for the headline: "Wanted, short baker, armed with skillet." Nothing, no police sketch, no breaking news, as if it never happened. But I could still feel the vibration of the handle in my palm. I was hiding in the only place I felt safe. The Golden Whisk, my small, struggling bakery in the Arts District. Cheap rent because the plumbing was 70 years old. It smelled like yeast, burnt sugar, and desperation. Alara, you're doing it again. My assistant Maisie was 19, entirely too relaxed and wearing a gravity-defying beanie. Staring at the door like you owe it money. I owe it an apology. I put bad energy out there, Maisie. The karmic boomerang is coming. Relax. Nothing exciting ever happens here. Biggest drama this month was Mrs. Pemberton accusing us of shrinking her muffins. Then the sunlight vanished. A low vibration rattled the display trays. I looked up, flour-covered hands frozen mid-kneed. A black SUV, sleek, armored, a tank in a tuxedo, rolled to a stop outside. Then another. Then a third. The street went silent. Pedestrians stopped. A pigeon paused mid-flight. "Whoa," Maisie whispered. "Is that the president?" Worse. The middle SUV opened. Security spilled out first, dark suits, earpieces, professional disinterest. Then a leg. Polished shoe. Tailored charcoal trouser. Damien Ashford emerged into the afternoon sun. He was devastating. Suit worth more than the building. Tall, carved from granite, radiating power that made the air feel thin. And he was wearing dark aviator sunglasses. Hiding the bruise, hiding my crime. He looked up at the sign. The Golden Whisk. He didn't look angry. He looked like a man with a craving. The little bell chimed, a cheerful ding that sounded like a funeral toll. He stepped inside. The bakery shrank. His presence soaked into every corner. He removed the sunglasses slowly, revealing a faint purple bruise on his left temple. His gaze slid over the mismatched chairs, the chalkboard menu, Maisie's open mouth. Then it landed on me. Flour-covered, hiding behind a tray of croissants, clutching a rolling pin. He walked to the counter and joined the line behind Mrs. Pemberton, who was counting pennies for a scone. The Alpha King, standing patiently behind an 80-year-old woman arguing about raisins. "Young man," Mrs. Pemberton turned to him. She had no idea. "You're blocking the light. Some of us are trying to see the lemon bars." I stopped breathing. Damien looked down at her. A polite smile that didn't reach his predatory eyes. "My apologies, madam." The lemon bars looked defenseless. His gaze flicked to me on the last word. Mrs. Pemberton shuffled away. No buffer left. Just 3 feet of countertop and consequences. He placed his hands on the glass. "You ran. I had a yeast emergency." "A yeast emergency." "Very volatile. If you don't punch it down, it takes over. Sort of like unwanted guests." His mouth twitched. He leaned on the glass, bringing his face closer. I waited 20 minutes on the floor. My security wanted to tear the city apart. Why didn't they? Because I told them you were a specialist testing my reflexes. That I failed. You lied to your guards. I don't like people touching my things. The word things hung heavy and possessive. "I'll take one." "One what?" "One of everything." He didn't take them to go. He made me plate them. He sat at the tiny wobbly corner table, knees bumping the wood, and ate. Croissant. Danish. Sticky bun. And the entire time, he didn't look at the food. He looked at me. He watched me knead dough. Watched me pipe icing. Every bite felt like a promise. After an hour, he stood, brushed a single crumb from his lapel, and slid a black titanium credit card across the counter alongside a linen napkin. "Keep the change. Down payment on the medical bills." "I didn't agree to pay your medical bills. I'm not charging you for the bruise." He leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper that curled my toes. "I'm charging you for the insult." He walked out. The bell chimed. The SUVs vanished. I looked at the napkin. Sharp, elegant handwriting. A phone number and 1 sentence. "Next time, aim for the shoulder. The head hurts too much to enjoy the view." 3 days of suspicious silence. No SUVs. No Damien. I started to relax. Then the letter came. Delivered by a courier in silk who looked like he usually carried diamonds or subpoenas. Elise addendum. My building had been acquired by Obsidian Holdings. Rent adjusted to reflect current market value. 300% increase. I didn't call the number. I was too angry for phones. I grabbed my purse and stormed to the financial district, a glass spire piercing the clouds. Past the receptionist, past security, straight to the top floor. I threw open the double doors. "Listen here, you corporate vulture, you can't just..." I froze. Damien sat behind a desk of dark polished wood, reading a file. He finished his paragraph, closed the folder, and raised those golden eyes. "Hello, Alara, you made excellent time. You bought my building. Portfolio diversification. You bought it to harass me." I slammed the letter on his desk. 300%. "You're trying to drive me out." "On the contrary." He stood, closing the distance. "I don't want you to leave. I want to renegotiate." "Renegotiate what?" "I don't have money, Damien. I have flour and sarcasm. I don't want your money." He stopped 2 feet away. The air pressure dropped. "I want your time." "My time?" "The rent hike disappears. The building stays yours. Free lease, 5 years. He crossed his arms, biceps straining against his suit. "In exchange, You teach me to bake. Private lessons, 2 nights a week. You want to learn Danishes. It's the only way I can get you alone without my security team tackling you. This is a mistake, I muttered, standing in the penthouse kitchen. Scene of the crime. White marble counters that cost more per square foot than my life insurance. Relax, Damien said behind me. I hid the frying pan. He'd removed his jacket, rolled his sleeves to the elbows, forearms thick with muscle, dusted with dark hair. He looked like a cologne ad called Forbidden Carb. I tossed him a spare apron, pink. Kiss the cook. He caught it one-handed. Read the slogan. Arched one perfect eyebrow. Safety equipment, I said, face burning. Flour-stained silk. He put it on. The Alpha King in a frilly pink apron over tailored linen. Surreal. Strangely domestic. Lesson 1. Scones. They're forgiving, unlike you. The lesson went sideways immediately. Damien was built for broad strokes, power, force, command. Baking was chemistry. He didn't measure, he estimated. He didn't fold, he crushed. No, you're overworking it. I grabbed his wrist. Be gentle. Too much handling and the gluten develops. It turns into a rock. The moment my skin touched his, the air left the room. His hands were massive, warm, rough. Mine looked tiny against them. He turned his palms over, intertwining his fingers with mine, coating my skin in flour. Gentle, he repeated, voice dropping to a gravelly rumble. Like this. He didn't move his hands to the dough, he kept them on mine, stepped closer, pinning me between his body and the marble counter. Cedar and vanilla and something dark and masculine. Damien, I breathed. The scones? Forget the scones. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. You have flour on your face. You put it there. Then I should clean it off. He traced the line of my jaw. Slow, agonizing. Eyes locked on my lips. The playfulness was gone. This was the wolf. Do you have any idea, he murmured, face inches from mine, how hard it is to let you boss me around? I'm the teacher. You're a menace. A loud pop, the flour bag he'd knocked with his elbow tipped off the counter and hit the floor. A white mushroom cloud engulfed us both. I coughed, waving my hands. Damien froze. Looked down. He was covered head to toe, a powdered donut in a pink apron. I snorted, then giggled, then full hysterical belly laughs. A real grin spread across his face, boyish, unguarded. You think this is funny? You look, I gasped for air, ridiculous. Good. He stepped through the white cloud toward me, because I'm not the only one. He reached for the bag of sugar. Damien, don't you dare. Class dismissed, he growled playfully. Now it's war. The war didn't stay in the kitchen. After the flour incident, which ended with both of us hosed down in his shower, fully clothed, regrettably, Damien shifted tactics. If he couldn't own me, he'd upgrade me. New patio furniture overnight, rare Madagascan vanilla beans. An industrial Italian espresso machine requiring a PhD to operate. Alara, Maisie said Thursday morning, watching delivery men haul in a gold-plated mixer. Your boyfriend is buying your love with appliances. He's not my boyfriend. He's a guilt-ridden billionaire assuaging his conscience because I gave him a concussion. Right. Men always send $5,000 mixers to women who assault them. Classic courtship. But the gifts were just prelude. Damien started spending mornings at the bakery. Laptop at the corner table. Conference calls with foreign dignitaries while eating my blueberry muffins. He became a fixture. A very large, very terrifying fixture. Business slowed because customers were afraid to walk past the Alpha King for a bagel. You have to stop, I told him Friday, slamming coffee on his table. You're scaring the regulars. Mrs. Pemberton thinks you're going to tax her pension. I'm increasing your property value. You're loitering. Don't you have a kingdom to run? I like the smell here. His eyes dropped to my lips. It's sweet. The door chimed. A young shifter walked in. Tourist, different pack. He didn't notice Damien. He noticed me. Well, he leaned on the counter, giving me a slow once-over. I see a lot of things I'd like, but I'll start with coffee. Unless you're on the menu. I never got to shut him down. A sound tore through the bakery. Not a word. A growl, starting low like a deep earthquake, rising into a vibrating snarl that rattled the espresso cups. The tourist's color drained. He turned slowly toward the corner. Damien was standing, laptop forgotten. Eyes blazing feral gold, lips pulled back, canines visible. He didn't speak. The message was primal, broadcast on a frequency every predator understood. Mine. The tourist bolted so fast he nearly took the hinges. Damien stalked to the counter, movements fluid and predatory. Stopped in front of me. Gripped my chin, gentle but absolute, tilting my head back. He wasn't hungry, Damien rasped. He was hunting. And what are you doing? Marking. You can't mark people, Damien. This is a bakery, not a fire hydrant. The gold dimmed. He released my chin, thumb brushing my lower lip in a parting caress that turned my knees to unbaked dough. Before I could throw a bagel at him, the door chimed again. A woman walked in, stunning in that terrifying high-maintenance way, cream pantsuit, hair legally mandated into perfection. I recognized her from the tabloids, Lady Vivienne Hale, daughter of the Northern Alpha. The woman everyone expected Damien to marry. She scanned the bakery with mild disgust. Damien, security said you were conducting business in the district. I didn't realize your business involved carbohydrates. He didn't look at her. I'm busy, Vivienne. Her gaze slid to me, not a glare worse. Blank dismissal. I wasn't a rival. I was the help. And who is this? Your new nutritionist? I'm the owner. Can I get you something? A muffin? A slice of humble pie? Maisie choked on a laugh. Vivienne smiled coldly. A lemon tart. To go. I selected one from yesterday's batch, the one where I'd accidentally grated too much bitter pith into the zest. I'd been planning to throw them out. Excellent choice. Very sharp flavor. Matches your palate perfectly. She ignored me, placing a manicured hand on Damien's bicep. Darling, the solstice ball. My father hopes you'll join us in the royal box. Damien looked at her hand like a smudge of dirt, stepped away. Closer to me. I have a date for the solstice. Vivienne froze. I froze. Who? She laughed, brittle, cracking. He took the box tart and handed it to her. Classified. Enjoy the tart, Vivienne. Alara made it. That makes it more valuable than your car. Her mouth opened. Closed. Venom crystallized in her eyes. She snatched the box and stormed out. Through the window, a swarm of photographers. Flashes popping. Damien, I whispered. What did you just do? He looked satisfied. Announced that the game has started. By 2 a.m. the night before the ball, I was alone at the bakery, piping roses onto a 3-tier wedding cake. 300 cupcakes boxed, exhaustion held together by espresso and anxiety. Then, a hiss. A groan. The pipe under the industrial sink burst. Water exploded. A geyser spraying across the kitchen, hitting the ovens, the floor, dangerously close to the cake. I scrambled for the shut-off valve. Rusted tight. Water blasted my face. The back door crashed open. Damien, in a black velvet smoking jacket, crisp white shirt, bow tie hanging loose. Red carpet ready and completely out of place in my flooding kitchen. Moisture sensor, he said, holding up his phone. Building alert. He didn't hesitate. Didn't ask questions. Strode across the slippery floor, dropped to his knees in dirty water, and shoved his hands under the sink. Muscles bulged against expensive fabric. A grunt, entirely too attractive, and the rusted valve screeched shut. Silence. Drip, drip, drip. He looked up at me, water dripping from his eyelashes. Are you all right? Look at you. You're wearing a tuxedo in a swamp. Is the cake safe? He inspected it with the seriousness of a general surveying a battlefield. Frosting intact, structural integrity holding. We cleaned for an hour. He mopped. I dried. Then, because the disaster set me back, he stayed to help pipe cupcakes. He held the piping bag like a grenade. It's too delicate, he grumbled, crushing a sugar flower. Why is it so fragile? Because it represents love, I said sleepily, leaning against his shoulder to guide his hand. It's sweet and it breaks easily. He went still. I realized I was leaning on him, his body heat soaking into my shivering bones. 3:30 a.m. The world outside didn't exist. Love isn't fragile, he whispered, nose brushing my hair. Not the real kind. The real kind is like cast iron. You can beat the hell out of it and it just gets stronger. I closed my eyes. Just 5 minutes. I slid to the floor mats. He sat beside me, pulled me into his lap, wrapped his arms around me. I should have pushed him away. Instead, I buried my face in his wet shirt and fell asleep. Morning light. Cedar, rain, warm skin. I was wrapped in something solid and heavy, a weighted blanket that breathed. 5 more minutes, a deep voice rumbled against my ear. My eyes snapped open. I was on the bakery floor, tangled in the limbs of the Alpha King. Memory hit like a freight train. The pipe, the tuxedo, the cuddling. For one terrifying second, I let myself want it. Waking up like this every day. No rent hikes, no lonely nights. Just this impossible man who fixed my plumbing and ate my burnt croissants. Then reality kicked down the door. He was a king. I was a baker. Eventually, he'd get bored of the feisty commoner act and go back to his tower. And I'd be left with a broken heart and a business I couldn't afford. I scrambled backward, kicking his shin. Get off. He woke instantly. What's wrong? Intruder. Yes, you. I fixed your sink, Alara. We fell asleep. You have to leave. The sun is up. I don't care if they see me. I care. I spun on him. This isn't a game to me, Damien. You can play bakery for a few weeks, but this is my life. You have a kingdom. I have a mortgage. We are mates. The word dropped like an anchor. He'd never said it before. No. You're just obsessed. You've never had anyone tell you no, so you think it's love. It's just novelty. Go find someone who knows which fork to use. Hurt flashed across his face, raw, open, before hardening to stone. Is that what you think? That you're a challenge I'm trying to win? Yes, I lied. It hurt to say. He walked toward me. I backed into the sink he'd fixed. He placed a hand on the counter beside my hip, boxing me in, but not touching. I have thousands of wolves who bow to me, armies that will die for me. I don't need a follower. I need the woman who isn't afraid to hit me with a pan when I'm wrong. His eyes searched mine, but I won't force you. Say I feel nothing for you, Damien, and I'll walk out and never come back. I opened my mouth. The lie was right there. I looked at his wet shirt, the icing stain on his cuff, the gold eyes that had watched me sleep. I need you to go, please. It wasn't a denial, it was self-preservation. He understood. Fine. He grabbed his ruined jacket and walked out without looking back. I slumped against the counter, burying my face in my hands. 10 minutes later, a knock. I yanked the door open. I told you I can't. It wasn't Damien. A courier in formal livery, holding a gold-embossed envelope on a velvet pillow. Delivery for Miss Alara regarding the Royal Solstice Ball. The king has personally requested the Golden Whisk to provide dessert. The fee is substantial. I looked at the number. Enough to pay off 5 years of rent. Enough to save everything. But there was a clause highlighted in gold ink at the bottom. Clause 4A, the head pastry chef must present the dessert to the king personally on the dance floor. He hadn't given up. He'd changed the battlefield. That manipulative, arrogant, beautiful jerk, I whispered. Do you have a pen? I asked. I spent 3 days channeling fury into pastry. A croquembouche tower, 4 feet tall, spun sugar cages, profiteroles filled with creme diplomat infused with rare vanilla and bourbon. A structural nightmare. A masterpiece. But the silence from the palace was deafening. No calls. No SUVs. The bakery felt strangely empty without his looming, expensive presence. He's respecting your boundaries, Maisie pointed out. You told him to go away. So why does it feel like he's reloading? The day of the ball, we packed the van with military precision. I checked my reflection, tired, messy bun, flour smudge that refused to wipe off. We go in, set up, present the dessert. No eye contact. We leave. And the dancing? Maisie read the contract. Clause 4A, present on the dance floor. I'll waltz with the cake cart. Deep down, merging onto the highway toward the glittering royal district, I knew I was lying. I wasn't afraid I'd swoon. I was afraid that when I saw him surrounded by his court and his power, I wouldn't want to leave. The palace kitchens were an aircraft carrier, gleaming stainless steel, 50 chefs in tall hats moving with terrified efficiency. A severe woman with a headset found me at my station. The king requests your presence for the presentation. However, your current attire is unsuitable. There's a dressing room prepared, a package inside. I expected a Cinderella gown, something to make me a pretty doll for his arm. I was ready to hate it. I opened the garment bag. A note in sharp handwriting. Huck, I don't want a princess. I want the chef. D. It wasn't a dress. It was a chef's coat, cut from blindingly white silk, tailored to nip at the waist. The buttons weren't plastic. They were gold, embossed with the royal wolf crest. The trousers were sleek black, fabric that moved like water. He hadn't tried to change me. He'd looked at who I was, a baker, a worker, a boss, and given me armor. I buttoned the gold studs to my chin, looked in the mirror. I didn't look like a commoner crashing a party. I looked like the general of the kitchen. Okay, Damien. You want a show? Let's give them a show. The ballroom was a sea of diamonds, velvet, and apex predators. At the far end, on a raised dais, Damien sprawled on a velvet throne like a man serving a sentence. Black tuxedo, red sash, heavy crown, lethally bored. Vivienne Hale whispered in his ear. He didn't turn his head. Lords and ladies presenting the royal dessert, crafted by Miss Alara of the Golden Whisk. The double doors swung open. Conversation died. Every head turned. I walked beside the cart, chin high, eyes fixed on the king. Damien hadn't moved when the doors opened, but the moment I crossed the threshold, he froze, stopped twirling his glass, head snapped up. He smelled me before he saw me, nostrils flared. Boredom vanished, replaced by intense focus. He stood. So abruptly, Vivienne stumbled back. The music faltered. He didn't stand when the king was seated. He ignored protocol, stepped down from the dais. Golden eyes locked on mine across the polished dance floor. Started walking. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. He wasn't walking like a host greeting a guest. He was walking like a wolf closing in on its mate. He stopped 3 feet away, looked at the silk jacket, the gold buttons, my face. A slow, devastating smile. Hello, burglar. Your Majesty. Delivery for the crown. You wore the jacket. It fits. I wanted everyone to know. He stepped closer. Know what? That you don't belong to the kitchen. He brushed a stray lock from my forehead. You belong to the king. A sharp clatter, Vivienne had followed him down, bumping a waiter's tray. Red wine splashed across the back of my pristine white silk jacket. The room gasped. Cold wetness soaked through instantly. Oh dear, Vivienne's mock apologetic voice. How clumsy. But really, staff shouldn't be on the dance floor. I closed my eyes, waiting for humiliation. Then Damien growled, not the playful growl from the bakery, pure, unadulterated violence, deathly silence. "Give me a napkin," he commanded. He turned to me, rage replaced by terrifying tenderness. "Turn around. Everyone is watching. Turn around." I turned, and in front of the press, the nobility, and the cameras, the Alpha King dropped to his knees. He pressed white linen against my back with gentle, deliberate pressure. Absorbing the wine, his hand warmed through the ruined fabric. He wasn't cleaning a stain. He was tending to a wound. "Damien, darling," Vivian's voice wavered. "It's just the help. The cleaners will handle it." He stood, rose like a tide, turned to face her. "You stained my colors, Vivienne." He dropped the wine-soaked napkin at her feet. "You did it to humiliate the only person in this room who actually works for a living." He turned his back on her, dismissed the daughter of a powerful alpha like a gnat, and faced me, eyes softening instantly. "Dance with me, Alara, or I'm going to kneel again, and next time I'll stay there until you say yes." I looked at his hand. Broad, calloused, steady. He was putting his reputation, his dignity, his pride on the line. I placed my hand in his. "If you step on my toes, I'm charging extra." His fingers closed around mine. "Deal?" The strings swelled. He pulled me flush against him, destroying polite distance. We began to move. He didn't just lead, he carried the momentum, guiding me through turns with effortless strength until the crowd blurred and the whispers faded. "You're light on your feet," I murmured. For a man who usually just sits on a throne and glares. "I'm also excellent at dishwashing and terrible at plumbing." I laughed, bright and real in the stuffy room. He spun me out and pulled me back. "They're terrified of you," he said, nodding toward the perimeter. "They're terrified of you. They think you've lost your mind." "Maybe I have." His forehead rested against mine. "I haven't looked at a budget report in 3 days. I ate a carbohydrate. I publicly insulted a diplomat. I am unraveling. You seem fine to me. I am not fine. I am obsessed. I wake up thinking about you. I look at this room full of people who want my power, and all I can think is that none of them would dare hit me with a frying pan. Is that really the bar? Blunt force trauma? The bar is honesty. You see me, Alara. Not the title, not the money, the man. And you aren't impressed. I'm a little impressed. You cleaned my jacket. I would burn this palace down if you asked me to," he stated calmly. The music reached its crescendo. Damien stopped spinning, held me in the center of the silence, arm like an iron band around my waist. "Be my mate," he said. Not a question, not a proposal, a plea. My heart stopped. Mate. It meant everything. Forever. Sharing a soul, a life, a pack. "Damien, I have a bakery. I have a life. I can't be a queen. I don't know how to wave. I hate pantyhose. Keep the bakery. Burn the pantyhose. Dictate the terms. Write them on a napkin. I'll sign anything." He looked at me with such raw, open hope that it broke me. Flashbulbs exploded. The spell shattered. Press shouting from the sidelines. "Your Majesty, is this an engagement?" "Who is she?" The vulnerability vanished. The alpha mask slammed down. He shifted his body to shield me from the cameras. "We're leaving." He grabbed my hand and dragged me toward the double doors. "Wait, the dessert. The tower." "Let them eat cake," he growled, kicking the doors open. We burst into the hallway, down a private stairwell, into an underground garage housing a single car, a sleek black beast that looked fast enough to break the sound barrier. "Get in!" That is not a car. That is a midlife crisis on wheels. "Alara," his hand on the doorframe. "Get in." I got in. We shot into the night, leaving the palace and its scandal in the rearview mirror. The city blurred past, lights, river, the skyline he owned. "You kidnapped me," I said. "Rescued you. From the sharks. If we'd stayed, they would have dissected you, lineage, bank account, past relationships." He pulled into the private garage of Obsidian Tower. Killed the engine. Silence, thick with unsaid things. He turned to face me. Dashboard lights casting shadows across his gold eyes. "You didn't answer me. In the ballroom. I asked you to be my mate. You didn't say no. I didn't say yes either. But you didn't say no." He reached toward my cheek, then dropped his hand, afraid to touch me now that the adrenaline was gone. "I'm done playing games. I'm done buying pastries I don't eat just to see you. I can't just be your queen, Damien." I throw pans. I yell. I get flour in my hair. "I will embarrass you. You will ground me. I don't need a statue." He pulled out a folded piece of paper, wrinkled, grease-stained. The napkin from the first day. "Write it down. Everything you want. Every condition. If you want the bakery, write it. If you want weekends off, write it. If you want me to abdicate and move to a farm, write it." He handed me a pen. A cheap plastic bic he'd stolen from my bakery. Write your treaty, Alara, because once you sign it, I'm never letting you go. I pressed the pen to the napkin. First condition, I said aloud. I drive. What? This car. I get to drive it. A slow, wicked smile. Done. What else? Oh, I leaned back against the leather. I'm just getting started. The pen scratched against the grease-stained linen, the most unprofessional legal document in the history of the monarchy. Item 3. The bakery remains independent. You do not buy it. You do not optimize it. You do not send consultants to tell me my muffin margins are inefficient. Agreed. I prefer your muffins inefficient. Item 4. No royal duties on Sundays. Sundays are for testing recipes and wearing sweatpants. Tiara before noon on a Sunday and I abdicate. Item 5. Domestic labor. If you stay at my apartment, you pull your weight. Dishes. Manually. With a sponge. A disbelief-filled smile. You want the Alpha King to scrub plates. It builds character. Keeps you humble. Deal? He took the pen. Tossed it on the dashboard. Took the napkin, folded it reverently, slid it into his tuxedo pocket over his heart. Deal? Now stop writing. I want to take you upstairs. The penthouse foyer. Imported marble. The spot on the floor where he'd fallen. This is where it happened, I said softly. Where I almost killed you. He walked up behind me. Chest against my back. Arms around my waist. Face buried in my neck. Best headache of my life. I gave you a concussion. You gave me a challenge. He turned me around, hands cupping my face. I spent centuries being bored. Everyone says yes. Everyone bows. Then you came out of the dark with a frying pan and told me to get out. Forehead against mine. I knew right then. I was in trouble. I'm still trouble. Good. And then he kissed me. Not tentative. Acclaiming. A seal on the contract. He kissed me like he was starving, and I was the only sustenance in the world. I grabbed his lapels, pulled him closer, melted into cedar and rain. For the first time, maybe the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was fighting for my place. I felt like I'd already won. Morning light, aggressive, high altitude, unfiltered. I groaned, pulling silk sheets over my head. Coffee, a grumble from nearby. Damien stood by the bed, gray sweatpants. Nothing else. Holding a mug with deep suspicion. I made it. The machine made angry noises, but brown liquid came out. I sipped. It tasted like burnt rubber and good intentions. Delicious, I lied. He sat on the bed's edge, pulling the wrinkled napkin from the nightstand. You missed a clause. I did. Clause 6, duration. I swallowed. What's the duration? Forever. No renewal option. No exit strategy. You sign this and you're stuck with me. The press, the politics, the bad coffee, and the occasional concussion. He handed me the pen. I looked at the man who'd knelt in wine for me, who was willing to wash dishes just to be in my kitchen. I didn't hesitate. I scrawled my name across the bottom. Signed. He didn't smile. He looked relieved, as if he'd genuinely been afraid I would run. Good. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling curtains. Because we have an audience. He hit a button. The curtains slid open. 40 stories down, thousands of people. News vans, helicopters, crowds pressing against barricades. They know you're here. The palace issued a statement this morning. What statement? He turned, silhouetted by morning light and the city he ruled, that the king has finally surrendered. He held out his hand. Ready to accept your victory? I'm wearing a sheet. If I go out there now, I'm accepting an indecency charge. He laughed, that low rumble against my back. We'll get you clothes, but you can't hide anymore. You signed the napkin. You're legal. I looked at the crowd. The signs. Long live the chef. Show us the skillet. Absurd. Terrifying. My life now. I took a deep breath. Squeezed his hand. Okay, let's go. But if anyone asks, I'm driving. 7 months later. Order up. 2 lattes, oat milk, extra hot, 1 bear claw, and for the love of all that is holy, someone stopped the alpha from eating the inventory. The golden whisk was absolute chaos. Had been for 6 months straight. Ever since the napkin treaty, my little shop had transformed from a neighborhood secret into a pilgrimage site. And the show was currently standing in the corner, bespoke 3-piece Italian suit protected by a neon green apron reading "Don't feed the animal." Damien was frosting cupcakes. Badly. I am quality control, he argued, licking buttercream off his thumb with a deliberation that made 3 women at table 4 simultaneously swoon. This batch is substandard. The integrity is fine. That's a customer's order. Put it down. He paused, held the cupcake halfway to his mouth, looked at me with those golden eyes feigning innocence, then slowly, deliberately took a bite, maintaining eye contact. Delicious, he smirked. I'm firing you. Go run the country. I am supporting local business and guarding the assets. He wasn't joking about guarding. When a rude customer snapped his fingers at Maisie last week, Damien just walked up behind the guy and stood there, silent, looming, until the man apologized, tipped 50%, and left walking very quickly. I marched up, grabbed the piping bag from his massive hand, pointed a stern finger at his chest. Break time. Sit. He sat. The Alpha King, most powerful predator on the continent, sat on a rickety stool because I told him to. He pulled me between his knees, arms around my waist, flour on his $1,000 trousers. You look tired, he murmured. We sold out of the King's concussion eclairs in 10 minutes, can't bake them fast enough. Maybe we should expand. Buy the block. No. Clause 3. Independent. The chaos keeps you humble. He kissed the flour off my knuckles. I am very humble. Lear. I'm letting you drive the Aston Martin tonight, because you lost the sourdough bet. That devastating boyish grin, the one he only showed me. Cameras flashed, but he didn't look at them. He only saw me. Ilara, happy anniversary. It's been 6 months. That's not an anniversary. It is. 6 months since you didn't run away. I softened. I'm not running anywhere, Wolf. I have a contract and a very expensive car to drive. Good. He kissed me, quick and hard, a promise sealed in sugar and possessiveness. Now get back to work. I need another cupcake. Pay for it first. As I turned back to the counter, my eyes drifted to the wall behind the register, the place of honor. No awards, no diplomas. Instead, mounted inside a velvet-lined shadow box with museum-quality glass, a heavy, black, well-seasoned cast iron skillet. A small dent on the bottom edge. Beneath it, a gold plaque gleamed. The Kingmaker, in case of emergency, break glass, property of the Queen. I smiled at the weapon that started a war and ended with a wedding, grabbed a fresh tray of dough, winked at my husband, and got back to work. Still here? Good, because this story is just the beginning. If you want more tales of fierce women, possessive alphas, and romances that hit harder than cast iron, subscribe now and turn on notifications. The next story is even wilder. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.